Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Kansas City Profiles presented by Easton Roofing. Perhaps Carl Little isn't the most famous person to the general population that we have profiled through the past year, but in the business and charitable community, it is hard to find anyone who doesn't know him or been a beneficiary of his generosity. Carl and I met in part because of our Boston area roots. We both are suburban Boston natives who each went to school in the Midwest, but our paths didn't cross for many years. Football brought Carl to Ottawa University, and he looked after school to continue on that path as an educator and a coach. His love of coaching never went away, but the abysmally low compensation at the time moved him into an area that he is a natural for, sales. He has successfully built and sold multiple businesses, but all the while he has used his success and winning personality relentlessly for good. Lessons from his mom and helping to raise a special needs stepson were impactful in fueling his relentlessly charitable nature. One of his many charitable passions is the upcoming copier drop, where a copier deemed the city's worst is dropped from a crane at Union Station, the template for a charity event that raises funds for the BIGGSteps Foundation. The fourth annual event is on Friday, September 6th. Carl's story is an interesting, humorous, and inspiring one. He can spin a story as well as he can sell copiers and raise money. Enjoy, along with me, my conversation with a person I am lucky to call a friend. Of course, as you will hear, that hardly makes me unique. Kansas City Profiles, presented by Easton Roofing, brings you Carl Little. Next. We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Before you spend your time and money going after an MBA, ask yourself why. Is it so you can tell people you got your MBA? So you can add a line to your CV? So you can call it a CV instead of a resume? Truth is, any MBA will do that. On the other hand, if your goal is to learn how to successfully manage and grow a business with real-world insights from experienced professionals, well, consider getting your MBA from Park University. Our low student-to-teacher ratio gives you personalized attention, and our face-to-face and online classes offered in 8-week terms are designed with working professionals like you in mind. No wonder the Kansas City Business Journal ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. Well, Carl, this is a podcast, so I guess we can say what other New Englanders sometimes say about people from Massachusetts, is that we're fellow massholes. And that's kind of how we ran into each other in some regard. But take me back to Carl Little, young scrub, young 5 or 6 year old. Where were you at? What were you doing?
Wow, well, that's an interesting deal. I was born in Newburyport, Massachusetts, which is about 30 miles north of Boston. My dad tells the story that he was in Korea when I was born and got home, and my mom said, "What do you think of your son?" He said, "I'm not that impressed with him because I wanted a girl first." And so we were raised in Newburyport, and very small town, 25,000 people. Everybody knew everybody else. It was right on the mouth of the Merrimack River. Beautiful city, beautiful schools, beautiful two-story homes with widows' walks up on top, so the widows can watch, or the wives of the guys coming in from sea could see if their men would come back in the ships. So they called them widows' walks up on top. And beautiful homes, beautiful city. I loved it. I missed living there. Brothers and sisters are still back east, but it's a beautiful town. I enjoyed living there and growing up. Played sports my whole life. Mom and Dad both worked 2 or 3 jobs just to put food on the table back then, and ended up putting 5 kids through college, which was pretty amazing, and that's kind of it.
What was the hierarchy of your siblings?
Well, believe it or not, I was the oldest.
I believe that.
And they...
Me too.
I'm not sure they believed it, but I kind of did some things that probably were noted when I was in school that hurt them when they got there, because I was a little bit rowdy. But my brothers and sisters are all good folks and professionals, and I have a brother who spent 30 years in the Air Force, and a sister that has been a nurse her whole life. A sister's run some restaurants, and a brother that's taught school for over 32 years in New Hampshire. And so we're all successful people because Mom and Dad made it that way, and they weren't very educated people, but they were very smart from a standpoint of being witty, and they were just hardworking people. Blue-collar workers just knew that, you just work your butt off. My dad told me once, he said, "You'll never have to ask for more money or a raise or a title if you just outwork everybody that works with you." And I've always been a hard worker, and I love it. And my dad taught me a lot.
What was, you mentioned they had to work multiple jobs. What did they have to go out and do? What do you remember, or what were your days like? How much were they gone? How much were you like latchkey kids?
I remember my mom worked from 3 to 11 at a GM plant in New Hampshire, in Seabrook, New Hampshire, putting together window systems for Chevrolet cars, or GMs, I should say. And my dad was a construction worker. He owned part of a construction company early on, and he sold his piece of it. And then he was an operator of heavy equipment, bulldozers and cranes and backhoes. And I remember he never didn't work. I mean, he worked every single day of the week. He dug swimming pools on the weekends and helped dig sidewalks and streets on the weekends. Second job, rented a vehicle, a tractor or a backhoe or something on the weekends. And we all worked with him because, we could help him, and obviously he could get home quicker. And so we all worked with our dad or our mom, and we're expected to work hard, and we did as kids. So,
tell me about getting involved in sports and I guess having the time for it.
Well, I'm not sure my dad ever saw very many of my high school football games. As a freshman, I played on the varsity team, and thought I was pretty good, played in a pretty good league. It's the same league that Doug Flutie played in. If you remember Doug Flutie, played in the NFL.
Same league I played in.
The same league you played in. Where'd you go to high school?
Framingham North.
Framingham North. And I went to Newburyport. We played Swampscott and Marblehead and Lynn Classical and Gloucester and a lot of schools on that the east coast of the Atlantic Ocean, and good football. Not great football, but good football. And I played all 4 years, and then decided I was going to go to college. And I looked around at some schools, looked at some junior colleges, and then got an offer to come to Kansas and play at Ottawa University.
How did that happen?
Well, 3 or 4 guys before me came out here to play, and one of them was an All-American tight end, Kevin Lucy. He was a heck of a player. He said, "You ought to go to Ottawa." He said, "It's not Big 8 football. It's certainly not the biggest football you'll ever play, but we all knew we weren't going to play in the pros, so we might as well play someplace we could play." And I played a lot at Ottawa. I played sometimes both ways, and it was a great experience for me. And it was small enough that I could be watched by coaches and teachers, because I was a little wild when I got out here, and they kind of calmed me down a little bit and said, "If you want to graduate, you better do it our way, because your way's not working." So.
What was a little wild? Tell me about some wild Carl.
Well, I was the RA of a dormitory because I needed the money. which meant I was in charge of 2 floors, and the keg that was in the dorm. Now, Ottawa is a very Baptist school, very religious school, and there was no dancing on campus. There was no smoking on campus. If you had women in your room, you had to have the door open halfway. And the keg was in my room, and I was the RA. And everybody knew it except the dean of students, who happened to be the defensive coordinator, who was my coach. And he found out about it, and he said, I'll give you about 30 seconds to get that keg out of your room. And I said, where do you want me to put it? He said, well, get it off campus. You can't drink on campus. And so we got it off campus, but that was about as wild as they got.
So wild is a wild exaggeration, somewhat. But
yeah, for sure.
What was I did the same thing you did. I grew up in New England, and I went to school in the Midwest. What was your first feelings about moving out to Kansas? I remember thinking, everyone's so polite, and you get on the elevator. Like, I thought I was doing real well with the girls, because elevator'd stop at the dorm, girl get on, she'd say something to you, actually say hello and whatever. And I'm like, and that didn't happen when you were back east. I mean, people just didn't openly sort of say, hey, what's up? Or for sure, no matter what you said, people here said for sure.
Oh, I agree. The friendliness really surprised me, because back home, if someone started talking to you, it was like, what do they want? And
right.
I remember when I got off the plane at downtown Kansas City Airport, and the van was there to pick us up. 6 or 7 football players getting off a plane, and they dumped us off at Price Hall on the Ottawa University campus, and it was hot. It was 105 degrees. The cicadas were making racket. I didn't know what a cicada was until they explained to me there was some sort of a bug that made a lot of racket and was up in the trees. And I said, what is that? It buzzed for months.
And the humidity, nothing.
Humidity was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to relax a little bit. They said, no, you need to go to the field house and dress out. I said, dress out for what? They said, football practice. I said, it's 105 degrees. We need to stay inside, have some iced tea. And they said, no, we're going to go practice football. And we did. And I mean to tell you, that's the hottest I've ever been in my life. And
there's probably a time when they thought giving you water was not a good idea either.
Water was
right?
sparse back then, yes. They didn't believe in that. And it got hot, and I got thirsty, and I got a little mad, and I wanted to go home and call my dad, and I said, I want to come home. He said, well, come on home. You can work construction tomorrow morning. I said, no, I think I'll stay here. So I stayed in the Midwest, and I liked it. The people here were just so friendly, and I wasn't that kind of a friendly guy. I was from Boston, and I was afraid of people who were trying to get too close to me, like they wanted something.
Right, and certainly you got over that, Carl, that part of it.
I did get over that, and I think my wife has helped me kind of calm down a little bit and curb my my enthusiasm for life, and I mean that positively. She was a really good influence on me, because I was a knucklehead and needed someone to kind of settle me down a little bit.
So when you're completing, obviously you knuckled down enough to complete your education and play football. Well, first of all, just tell us about playing at that level of football and some of your good memories of it.
Well, I remember my dad came out for my first game, which I was surprised, because he didn't go to very many of my high school games because he was busy. He came out and he said to me at halftime, he was walking with me to the locker room, he said, this reminds me of intramurals. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you had more people at your high school games than you have here. I said, I know that, Dad. But I said, you put this helmet on and you'll see what those guys do out there. They hit pretty damn hard. So I enjoyed playing football there. When I graduated, I didn't have a job, and I went back east to try to find a coaching and teaching job, because I had a degree in physical education. I wanted to be a PE teacher and coach football. And I came back to Kansas because I couldn't find a job on the East Coast. A couple of my friends went back. They got jobs, but I didn't get one. They coached different sports, but came back, and my first coaching job was at a place called Wetmore, Kansas.
Right.
Wetmore is north of Topeka in the Sabetha School District, and I think I got the job because there were no more applicants for the job. There were 13 kids in a graduation class, and I was head football coach, and some days at practice we might have a dozen kids, and some days we'd have 18, and game night we might have 21, but that was pretty much half the school. But it was brutal because we ended up winning one game, and I don't know how we won it, but we did. Then I became the head basketball coach, and they hadn't won a game in 3 years. We won 3. They went into playoffs, and we actually won one playoff game, which shocked the crap out of me. But one of the best stories I could tell you was the head coach at Powhatan High School, which was an Indian reservation. His name was Pat McAfee. He called me and he said, now, do you care if my kids wear shoes when we come down to play you Friday night in the basketball game. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, these are Indian kids that are not used to wearing shoes. I said,